Welcome to the Sports Card Lessons Podcast. With me, your host, Ken. I'm a retired teacher documenting my hobby journey here on the pod, finding teachable moments to share with all of you along the way. Don't forget to hit me up on social media on Instagram at sportscard_lessons. Hit that follow button. And you can also find me on YouTube by searching Sports Card Lessons. If you like what you hear, please like, subscribe, and most importantly, tell a friend and spread the word. 5 days. 5 days, I'll be at my first national. Very excited, counting down the days. 5 days. Welcome, everyone. What is going on? Hope everyone's having a great week. We're at the start of a heat wave here in Connecticut. Supposed to be the next, 8, 9 days over 90 degrees. So this is my time. I love this time in the summer. Love the heat. The hotter, the better. And I'm sure Atlantic City's not going to disappoint with the weather down there as well. But this week, as soon as I'm finishing recording this, heading down to the Connecticut shoreline, spending a little time this week down at the beach. Looking forward to it. Looking forward to a little rest and a little reset before National, because I know it's going to get crazy there next week. And I know there's some card shops down that way where I'm going to be along the shoreline. And if I find some time, if I get motivated and I can tear myself away from the family for a little while, I may take a ride. But if not, it's okay, because I'm sure I'm going to have enough card overload next week to last a whole year. So let's get into it. This past weekend, I did the Garden State show in Hasbrook Heights, New Jersey. I talked about this. The show was previously, so the last 3 of these I did, they were all in Secaucus at La Quinta Suites. So it's like 10 minutes away. It was just a different venue. And I kind of like this one a little better. That one there, the La Quinta, you had to pull up in front and unload and then go park in the little parking garage. It was free, but it was right next door to the hotel. So, going with a partner, it works out fine. You unload the car, one person can go park the car and the other one can, pull the cart in with all the stuff on it. But this one, it had a parking lot, was at the lower level of the Hilton. You drove down, you parked in the parking lot. It was flat. You loaded up your cart right in, walked right into the show. It was really easy for setup and for tear down to get out of there. It was a lot easier, and I really like this setup. Shout out to Laz on Instagram at Laz New York's. It's Laz LAZNYC. And if you don't follow him, because I'll tell you what, he can put on a show. All the shows I go to, his shows never disappoint. And if you just go to his Instagram, and you can check out his page, check out the pictures where he shows the room empty and the room full. And when you see the room full, that was all day. That's not like, oh, this was just one hot moment between 11 and 11:15 or something like that. All day long, there's just constant traffic all day long. It's a crowded room, and they do not disappoint. His shows do not disappoint. He does it right. He definitely does it right. The traffic he pulls in for this show is just unbelievable, and I'm sure it's the situation where it's situated too. I mean, you've got New York, New Jersey. It's just over the bridge. It's like 10 minutes over the GW Bridge. And it's so local to so many people there. There were people there from the city. There were people there from Long Island. There were people there from Connecticut. There were people there that lived in New York, but outside of the city. It was just so convenient for so many people to come in. So it's definitely a lot of traffic. And this is really going to these shows. This is what really got me not to set up at the smaller local shows. Now I go to the local shows and I make deals. I bring my cards and I go in and I work, but I don't actually set up at these smaller shows anymore. And I can tell you just from these last shows, the last 2 shows I did, the sales I did this weekend far exceeded both those shows combined, probably a 5x in sales to the two previous shows. So I recommend, if you're in driving distance and you see I know he has a show coming up. It's going to be in the city in August. I won't be there. I'm actually going to be on vacation. I won't be setting up for that one. But if you're within driving distance, I definitely recommend you go to these shows. 100% recommend it. A couple shout outs. Shout out Craig at New York City Sports Cards. He came and set up. I had him on the show. He was a guest on. I did an interview on the show earlier in the season. Just a great guy. Loves setting up. We set up together at the Big Apple in New York City. So this was the first time I've seen him since then. He set up 2 rows behind me, so it was really great to see him. Dave at DJ's Sports Card 86. Dave, if you know Dave, Dave's at every show. There is not a show local, everywhere. If there's a show, Dave's set up. If there's 2 shows in one day, somehow he's set up at both shows. I don't know how he does it, but if there's a show set up, Dave's at that show. Shout out to Rob at Sports Card Therapist. He was not there, but definitely home FOMO with his newborn son, texting me all day. What's going on? How's the show? How's sales? What are you doing? What pickups are you making? Definitely had FOMO. So just a shout out to him. And shout out to John from Behind the Diamond. Stopped by. I know I met John. We set up together. I talked about John down when we did the Hofstra show in Long Island. We set up together down there. So John was at the show. He was not set up, but came by, visit, chat. We talked about to John about coming on. I'm going to do an interview with him coming up in the future. So that'll be fun, something to look forward to. We'll have him on the pod. So yeah, it was great. That, it's funny because there's a lot of other people I expected to see there that weren't there, that set up at either set up or come to last shows. And I kind of felt that, it's the summer, life gets in the way. People are on vacation, people are away. I know a couple of people I reached out to and said, what happened? I expected to see you there. And they were in Dallas at the Dallas Card Show. They went down there for that one. So I think, though, by all the messaging that's going on, I think I'm going to see probably everyone I know in the card business in the hobby here at National. So I'm kind of excited about that. So I'll definitely be able to catch up with people there. And it's funny because that, you go to a show, right? And it's a one-day thing. People come to your table, you have to deal with people, but people going to National, they're there for a week, right? There's so much extra time to be able to hang out with people and catch up with people and do some fun things. So again, looking forward to that. You can tell I'm excited about National, right? So the show, first off, I was not able to use my fancy director's chair, or as some call it, the lifeguard stand. The tables were too close together. There was no way I was going to be able to put that between. And as it was with the 2 chairs, with the person right behind me, we were kind of bumping into each other all day just with a regular chair. I finally had to just take the chair out of the way because it was getting to be too much, and it was too crowded. There was no way I could sit and talk to people all day. So I basically stood all day. And at the end of the day, my feet, my legs, my back, they were definitely feeling it. When I got in the car, I was like, oh man, I didn't realize, how I was feeling after just standing all day long. But, I back in the fall and early part of this year, before I got that director's chair, and that's the reason I got it, because after the show, I'd be like really feeling it just from standing all day. And I just have to throw out there, and I think I've mentioned this a few other times, that I walk every day, almost 365 days a year. I have a loop through my neighborhood that I walk. It's just under 4 miles, and I walk it every single day. So it's not like I'm not used to being on my feet. It's not like I don't get exercise. Like, I get a lot of exercise. I never miss my walks. And yeah, even after being here all day, I still feel it. I still definitely feel it. And I think it's that standing in one place and not actually moving is what causes that additional pain there. Um, and I'm hoping at National, I can use my chair at National, because if not, I might need a wheelchair by Saturday. I'm hoping that, I mean, I know it's going to be busy, and the way that chair is designed, I can sit and deal with people at the same time. So I definitely hope I can use it there. Um, you remember I talked about, I coined the phrase "know the show." So I know the last shows. This is about the fifth one I've done. So I prepared accordingly, and it really paid off. Like, I expected a lot of traffic. I knew how to price my things, because I've been at these shows, and I know where the price points are, and how to advertise, what to put out, what to bring. Certain things I just left home. Certain things I know I've gone to these shows and I haven't sold anything, so I just left those. I left those home. So I brought the things that I knew were going to sell, and they did. I mean, it certainly paid off. So again, just knowing the show as you're doing, if you're setting up at these shows, as you do these shows, you get to know what's hot at these shows, what people are looking for at these shows. Um, I was set up at the front door. Shout out to Laz on that. Put me right at the front door, right next to my buddy Nick from the Slab Exchange. And if you remember, I talked about Nick in a few episodes, setting up next to him at Laz shows. So we were still together, which was great. Just a great show partner. Back in episode 5, I talked about just having a moment looking at Nick's cases and looking at my table and looking back and just watching the show evolve and the crowd of people at Nick's table. And Nick had a few sales and his day was done. I mean, it was paid for because he had all high-end cards in there. And it was something that I wanted to do. I mean, I knew I would I'm not going to say never. I know at this point I'm not in that lane to have those really, really high end cards, but I've been working. Like, you've been here, you've been following this journey with me, and you see the cards and the cards I'm picking up and I'm trading up into, uh, from where I was and where 20 episodes, our 20th episode, where I started with cards there and where I'm up to now is the difference between night and day. And I talked about getting to that point, getting there. That was my goal, to have a Nick like case on my table. And we set up, and I got there and set up, and Nick and I chatted for a bit, and he comes over and says, "Hey, any good pickups lately?" And he goes over and he looks at my case, and I can tell by the look on his face. I mean, he just looked up at me and said, "Whoa." He said, "You've really come a long way." He goes, "These cards are unbelievable. Do you mind if I open the case?" He's pulling cards out. He's looking at me. He's like, "Oh, where did you get this? How? Oh, this is a beauty." And just going on and on with different cards. And we're just talking about the deals. I'm going back, and it's funny because he says he listens to the pod, but he never watches it on YouTube. So I talk about cards, and I'm showing him to you if you're watching them on YouTube, but he doesn't see him. He said somehow, he says, I know you're talking about these, but now when I look at it and I'm looking at your case, this is unbelievable. Um, and a lot of people during the day, it was my first time that a lot of people actually would say, "Wow, you have a lot of nice cards in this case, a lot of nice cards." And I was just, I'm beaming, beaming on the inside, because this is my goal. This is my goal, to get people to come up and be like, wow, and look in the case, and if this is what they're looking for, to buy these things. It is definitely my goal. And the kicker of this is, another dealer came to my table and looked at my case and said, "Yup." He goes, "This is my goal, to have a case like this." I started laughing. I said, "I was where you were 6 months ago." And when I tell you that, honestly, handed him my card. I said, "Listen to my podcast." I said, "You'll listen to, and you'll know exactly what I did to get this case right here. Everything, every card you see in this case, there's a story, and it's right there on the podcast." Very excited. He's going to go back, and hopefully he's going to listen to it, and go on his journey like I've gone on mine, to build a better case. Um, and that moment when you feel like you arrived, right? Where people recognize you in the hobby, especially at the shows where they come over. I I mean, if you set up at the shows, you know what I mean. Like, people will come, other dealers will come, and they'll glance, and they won't say anything. They may say hello, they won't say anything, and they'll just keep going by your case. But you know you have arrived when other dealers, when you're setting up, are coming over, and they're starting to ask right away the price on this. What about, what's the best you can do? And they're talking to you. Wow, this is a nice car. Now they they treat you as an equal. And I know when I first started doing this, and I'm gonna say that people in the hobby have been great. Like, all other dealers, if I go talk to them, they've all been great. But there's definitely, you can tell if you're observant enough. You can tell that how people view you, how other dealers will view you, whether they feel like you're in the same lane as them or if you're in a different lane. And if you're starting out and you've got, you know, eh, not I don't want to say bad cards in your case because there's really no bad cards, right? But maybe a lot of low end stuff where I started, just a ton of low end stuff in there, and always like knowing all these other cards exist, but just they're not in my case. And then starting to build your case. And I don't know, it's just this feeling, you've arrived when other dealers that you see and they're coming over and now they're looking in the case, they're talking about your, and they're making deals. And we're going to talk about a deal that I made. I made a kind of a big deal at you know, at this show with another dealer before. In fact, I'm just going to jump into it now. Um, I had another dealer before the show started. Frank Owen, shout out to Frank. He's not on Instagram. Hope you're listening, Frank. But um, he came by and he was looking and he was like, "Wow, you got a lot of nice cards in the case." He says, "I have a lot of higher end cards." He says, I'm looking to kind of trade down. I'd like to pick up, 4, 5, 6, 7 smaller cards. Are you interested in trading up to a bigger card?" Um, Come on, man. Really? Do you know me? Of course I am. Uh, I said, "Yeah." I said, he goes, "Let me go grab some cards and I'll bring it back and, maybe we can make a deal." I said, "All right." So then he comes back to my table with some cards, and I could see the one on the top was a Tom Brady Bowman Chrome. And I thought to myself, "Dear diary, jackpot." Right? Last week on the pod with Rob, my good friend Rob, sports card therapist, we were talking about cars to acquire, and he was kind of pushing me a little because I really never talk about what I'm looking for because sometimes I really don't know, what I'm looking for until I see it, right? And I think a lot of us are like, some of us are like that. Other of us are very focused. We know what we want. And Rob's one of those guys. He always knows exactly what he wants. But he's this big believer that if you put it out to the universe, that it's going to come to you, right? So if you listen to the interview last week, he kind of pushed me a little, and I said, yeah, I said, I think, in the back of my mind, a Brady Bowman Chrome. I have a regular 2008 Bowman, 2000 rookie Bowman of Brady, and I thought maybe I've been thinking in my mind maybe a Bowman Chrome, and I know he's going to be taking all the credit for me acquiring this card this weekend, even though he wasn't there, just because he had me put it out there, and he feels if you put it out there, it comes to you. And in this case, it absolutely did. It just showed up. I mean, it couldn't have showed up any easier to my table. So we talked a while and we went through, and Frank was just a great guy to make a deal with because he wasn't looking to beat me up. I wasn't looking to beat him up. We were basically right at comps on things, and I think we came to an understanding, because he actually had two Brady Bowman Chromes. He had a BGS 9 and a PSA 9. And when we kind of were coming to a deal, I said, "Look, because you've come with both cards and I really want the PSA 9, if you want to make the deal for that, this is the price on comps I will give you. But if it's going to be the BGS 9, this is the comps I'm going to give you. And he agreed, and he completely understood. And he said, I'd really like to hold on to the PSA, so I'm willing to go under comps on this Brady, and willing to give you comps, like straight comps on your cards. Worked out perfect. So the trade there, we got a deal done, and I think we were both pretty excited about it. The Trey Lance, the Silver Prism Auto that I got in a break. I talked about that maybe, and that was the card I got in a break. That when the card was pulled, it was 1,800. By the time it showed up, it was down to like 850, and then there were a couple comps between 950 and 1,025. So we came to an understanding on $1,000 comp on the card, and that's really what I was asking for the card at the show. So that was an easy one. The next card was a 2017, the Patrick Mahomes Silver Prism PSA 9. And I bought that at 900 when the comp was at 900 and when it was down. And then the comps have come back up. The last one sold for right about, I think it was 1110. So we came to an understanding, an $1,100 comp on that. Then there was a 2018 Josh Allen, the Green Prism PSA 9. And if you remember, I picked that up at Autograph Fest before the show started. I picked that up for $400, and the comp on that was about $650. So that's what he gave me on that. 2020 Prism Justin Herbert. It was a PSA 10. It wasn't the Prism. It was just the standard, the base card. I paid $200 on that. I think I may have paid a little under, maybe 175 or 180, but I in my mind, I thought I was into it for about 200. And the comp on it, I put it up for 350. One had just sold for like 327, but then there was another one for like 270 something. But at the end of the day, he just said, I will do the 350 for now. And if I need to cut some money off on the back end, I will. I said, okay. And then the next three cards, they were all cards that I pulled. I mean, they were all this year's Prism. There was a Jamar Chase, a green Pulsar. The comp on that was $75. I pulled that. I think that came out of a blaster. There was a Zach Wilson cracked ice blaster. The comp on that was $50. That's another card I pulled myself. And a Trevor Lawrence Silver Prism variation. The comp on that was, I think, was right around $100. I had it in my case for $125, and he was happy to do the 125. So it ended up equaling out to a trade value about $3,100. Now the Brady, the BGS, and it's what's interesting on the BGS, and I'm learning, and this is kind of a little bit my lesson today that I'm going to put out there. And I think most of you probably already know this, but I mean, I know that the grading is on the BGS cards, but I didn't realize how important certain things are. So if you're looking at a card, that the centering, when BGS lists out, all the grades for corners, edges, centering, and surface, that the centering is generally the most important part of the and the grading itself, like in this particular card, that when I was going through, because there was, and I'll tell you why. So I'm looking at comps on this, and now there's a BGS 9 that sold for 3,400, but then one sold for 3,800, and one sold for 4,000, and one sold for 4,200, and they were all over the place. But then somebody had said, just if you look at what the grading is on it, like it makes a difference. So the ones that are selling higher generally had three either 9.5s or 110 and two 9.5s and an 8.5 or something like that. It had some higher numbers built into the grading on it. This card had higher. It had three 9.5s and an 8.5. So it did have some higher numbers in there. And at the beginning, he kind of felt, and this is where I didn't understand that grading system. That's why these cards can vary, anywhere from, sell from anywhere from 3,100 to 4,500. And I didn't quite understand that. So I was just pushing like, look, I don't want to be overpriced. Like if I'm going to get this card and put it in my case, if I can get it at 3,100, I can make a profit, because all these other cards I could make a profit on. And he kind of understood that. So we came to an agreement with that. And I think he wasn't into the card for that much either, because he was pretty agreeable, and I think he figured that he could mark up these cards that I'm giving him enough that he could sell at the show, kind of the show. So he felt in his know the show that if he took these lower end cards, he could put a higher profit on and move the cards. To me, these were the prices that I put on these cards to make a profit. This is when I calculate out what I need to make on these cards, they were already worked into the price that I put on these cards when I put them in my case. So if he was going to give me those prices, I'm already making a profit on there, and now I'm trading to another card that I really want. That the value of this card, it could go up a lot. I mean, it could go down, but it could go up a lot more. So it was exciting. It was something that I was willing to do. I was willing to level up, move up into this bigger card. So when I calculated out, the trade value on the card was 3,100. My cost was under 2K. So now I'm into this card for under $2,000. I think it came in right around 1,900 or 1,910 or something when I calculated out, what I was into, all these other cards that I moved in. So I mean, it was a home run for me, to be into a 2,000, Brady Bowman Chrome BGS9, and I literally got into it for $1,900, right? The trade value was 3,100, but out of what it cost me was the 1,900. So now I'm moving in the right direction. And this has been the goal from the beginning, to be able to keep grinding and grinding and moving up and moving up. And now it's starting to pay off. And now I'm starting to get excited about it. But I'm going to show you this card. I'm very excited. If you haven't seen it on my Instagram already, I'll show you this card. And I did say they were the 9.5, 9.5, 9.5. The 8.5 was the surface, and the rest were the 9.5. I'll try to put that up there again. I'll show it twice. If you're on YouTube, you get to see it. I did make a pickup at the show. And I'm just going to show that now, because sometimes I do this. I talk about something and I forget to show it. So I'm gonna show it now. I was kind of excited about this pickup, because when I was at trade night, and I did that deal for the Justin Herbert card, the same person I was dealing with had this obsidian orange etched Zach Wilson, and I tried to make another deal for that, and we didn't really get it done. The comp on the card at the time was about 330, and I remember that card because we looked it up and we looked it up and we looked it up. So I was able to pick up this card for well under comps, and I was excited to get it at this price. I paid $165 for this, and it's a Zach Wilson orange etch autograph obsidian, and it is number 275. And I'm just going to hold that up. And it was nothing great about the deal. It showed up, and I said, "What do you need to get for it? Do you like anything on my case?" And they said, "No, I just want cash." And I said, "Well, if I'm just pay cash," I said, "I could probably do like $150 on it." And he said, he goes, "Can you do a little better?" And I said, "I like 165 would be the best I could do." And he said, "Done." So it was just an easy deal. And I took the card, and I'm excited to have the card, and that'll trip to National with me. Bet you didn't even know it was going to National. Now it's going, right? So my next deal I did was was another big deal at the show. And it was Jake at Jake.Cooperstein. And him and his buddy showed up to the table. They didn't say much. They were looking at cards and looking at cards, taking pictures of the card like a lot of us do now with the All app and things like that. And they kept whispering back and forth, and other people were coming up to the table. They would, politely move aside. No, 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 go ahead, and I was talking with people and making deals and whatever. Probably about after 30 minutes or so, he says, "Hey, can we make a package deal?" And I said, "Of course we can. I mean, that's what we're here for, right?" Um, so he said, "Okay." He said, "I want this card, this card, this card, this card, that," and he named like 12 cards. And I'm looking at him. I'm like, and all out of my big case too. And I'm like, okay. And I said, all right. And in my mind, I'm like, okay, let's pull these cards out. Let's lay them out, because this is how I process, what we're doing. So he says, I want to take all these cards and I'll give you 3,000 for them. And I just said, no, that's just not going to happen. I mean, we're looking at about $6,000 worth of cards. You're not getting them at 50%. And he said, well, and I said, let's just start one card at a time. Well, what card are you most interested in? Let's negotiate each card at a time, because that's what's going to work best for me. And then we started going from there. I said no probably more in the next 30 minutes than I've probably said in a year, just because it was, how about this? How about this? And it was always well under comps. And I just kept explaining to him, look, certain cards, I can make a deal with you because I know what I'm into them for, but I'm not just going to give you cards for what I paid for or for less. And I've seen, I watch this happen a lot. I don't understand. I mean, I guess I kind of understand it. And it happened at a table right behind me, that somebody was negotiating. They were trying to buy a card, and I was just listening to the negotiation going on, just being observant. And finally he's like, yeah, I can do it at whatever it was, 250 or 275. And he gave him the card. And the guy next to him said, "What did you pay for that card?" He said, "That's exactly what I paid for it." He goes, "Well, why did you sell it to him?" He goes, I don't know." He goes, "I figured I could just use the money instead of the card." And I really don't want to do that. I mean, if I have a stale card that I'm trying to get rid of, I guess I could do that. I mean, most of the time when they become stale, I'm selling them for under what I paid for them. But if I've got a card that I know is a decent card, and I say I paid $300 for the card, I really don't want to sell the card for $300, especially if it's not a good card, if it's something I bought into and it's been sitting in my case a while. I can do that, absolutely. But this happened to be I mean, I watched the card, I watched the negotiation. It was a Mac Jones Prism. Pulsar or something, like one of those green shiny Mac Jones that came out of Prism. I don't know exactly what it was, because I didn't actually see into the case. I didn't actually examine the card that was going out. But I thought to myself, I saw it there earlier. I thought to myself, I should ask him what he's asking for that card. And then this card ended up being, but on a card like that, I mean, I just wouldn't sell it for what I paid, especially on a Mac Jones or something that's, unless you're just expecting that the market is going to go down and you're just happy to get your money back out of it. But I just think it's bad business. So when you're asking me to sell you a card, what I paid for it, I can't do it. And some cards I'm over comps on. Some cards I paid in, and I tell people right up front when you come, and they look down, and they go, "Oh, do you have any room on this card?" And I said, "Let me tell you a story." And basically I just say, I'm into this card for more than comps, and I understand that, and I'm not going to sell it any less. So it's in my case because I own it, and it's definitely for sale. But the price doesn't make sense unless somebody really, really wants that card and is willing to pay over comps and feels like that comp is going to keep going up on it. So a few cards that I know I'll be sitting on for a little bit, but I don't mind using them as trade. I don't mind saying, well, look, if my card's down and your card value is down too, I don't mind doing a trade. Like we can go back and look at the actual, comps on each card and work forward from there, because that would kind of make sense to me. But I'm not here to lose money. And he was persistent. He was definitely persistent. I knew what cards he wanted. I knew what cards he was excited about. And the one card, that Justin Herbert, that was the biggest card in the deal, was the Justin Herbert, the RPA, that I picked up in a deal with Alan from JA Sports. I guess it's been 2 months now. So that card, I had in the case at 1,500. I was probably only into that card for about 600, and the last sale on that card was 1,300. And I believe as the deal went on, I ended up moving that card at 1,100. Um, and then there were I don't have all the cards, and I'll explain why. I didn't get the picture of all the cards. Usually I take a picture so I can talk all about it when I'm on here. I didn't get the picture of this, and I'll explain why later. Uh, the the Mac Jones, the Rookie Wave, and the My House, that the PSA 10s, they were the Pop 1. One was a Pop 1, one was a Pop 5 that just came back from PSA. Now, both of those cards were cards that were pulled. There wasn't much value in those cards except for it was a Pop 1 and a Pop 9. And I didn't have much into those cards at all, but now the value on these cards are like 250, 275. So it's like big profit I can make on those cards. And I was happy to move those cards. And we'll go right to comp. Yep, absolutely. Whatever the comp is, like, that's what those cards are selling at. And the other card in this deal was there's a few cards, but the next card of this deal, the Trevor Lawrence, the purple to 125, the Prism that I just pack pulled on Wednesday down at JA Sports. I went down and I purchased one pack out of a Prison Hobby box, and I pulled this Justin Herbert, and you see it on my Instagram, but I don't have the card because obviously it's gone. But I pulled that card, and that was a $375 comp on that card. Now the pack only cost $110. So, or maybe, I think it was 110. Yeah. So there was definitely a good profit on that card in there. And then there was just a handful of cards that I've just been carrying around, that have been in the case that were really kind of low end, that just wanted to throw it in. And then he kept wanting some bigger cards, but he wanted them too cheap. And I think at the end of the day, he was prepared to spend $4,000. We made a deal at $2,400, and he kept saying, like, I have more money. I want to spend more money. Sell me these cards. And I said, I'll sell you these cards for the right price. I just can't let them go. And other dealers were like looking like, hey, come to my table. Got that cash, you want to spend it, and that's fine. I've talked about this. Like, if I would show up a show and I didn't sell a card and I went home, I'd be okay with that. I'd absolutely be okay with that. It's not my day job, so I'm not going to let a card go for less than for less than I paid for it. I'm not going to lose money on any higher end cards. It's just full, especially with National right around the corner. And basically, I was building this inventory for National, so I did move. I did move some higher end cards, but I ended up with an even higher end card, and then I moved some other cards and put some cash in my pocket. Right? It's kind of I accomplished everything that I wanted to do at this show. I signed on to this show late because in my mind I was like, well, I got National coming. I don't want to. Then I thought to myself, wow, I still have a lot of these, a handful of these stale cards. Maybe I can move. Maybe I can, move up to a bigger card. So definitely going there, I accomplished everything I wanted to at this show. I moved some stale cards. I moved some lower end cards, and I moved a few bigger cards for a bigger card. So I've got, another bigger card for National, and I've got some cash, right? Some cash in my pocket, which is cash is king at these shows. So, this is definitely what I was looking to do. And the other thing I'll talk about when I talk about Know the Show. So I've been carrying the baseball box around with me, all these baseball cards from the Bowman Chrome and the Bowman, from now the mega boxes and the Bowman Chromes. And I went back through those. I talked about this a few weeks ago, and all the rookie, all the first Bowmans, and I kept all those. I just left those in the box. But all the other stuff that were autoed and numbered, I started going through it and realized half these guys never went anywhere or did anything. There was a good handful of people that did, and those are the higher end cards, the good cards. I sold those off already. But now I had a box. I had a box maybe about 100 cards, right? Actually, I counted them out because there was about 160 cards in there because somebody was thinking about buying the whole box, and we never came to a deal. But the last two shows, I didn't sell any of those out of that box, and they were all priced at $5, $10, $15, maybe a couple $20 ones. So going into this show, I said, you know what? It's dead weight. I don't want to carry it around anymore. I opened these packs back in 2020 and 2021. So it's anything any money that comes out of this now is just found money. So there was a couple of anything that was $20 and up, I moved to a $15 price. Any of that were $5 and $10, I switched to $3 and $5, and I put it in there. And I think I sold about 65 or 70 of those cards. Now, I didn't sell one of those cards at the last two shows, and I sold almost 70 of those cards at this show. So they were just, and I knew they would sell. I knew if the price was right because they're all numbered and autographed and refractors. I mean, some of them are people that are in the minors, and who knows? Maybe they may come out and do something one day. But at this point, it's just not a box I want to keep carrying around. I did the same thing with UFC and soccer, but I didn't sell many of those, and I didn't expect to on that. Most of the people there were looking at football and baseball. I know soccer is kind of dead right now. And I haven't even, this show, I didn't even bring any soccer to at all. And it's funny because a couple of people came up and said, is that all the soccer you have? And I said, well, for today, yeah. I said, that's it. Just what's there. I said, I have soccer, but I'm not going to be putting it out at shows right now. And going around too, I mean, I see a lot of people, doing deals for soccer cards, but I know just the prices are down on them. So, and I know, people coming to my table with soccer cards that, saying, they're trying to sell them, but they want to be over comps on them. So there's if they're trading them, which I think a lot is what's happening now as people are doing a lot with the trading of the cards. If your card is down and my card is down, that trade makes a lot of sense. But if you're bringing a card to me and you want my cash, it makes no sense for me to pay over comps right now. So I'm all set on that right now. Looking forward to National. My plan next week is to drop an episode a night with a daily recap. So sometime on Wednesday night, Thursday morning, you'll get a Wednesday recap. So I'm driving down there early Wednesday. Set up on Wednesday. I think it was 1 to 7. Is it 1 to? It's 1 to something. It's 1 o'clock to something. Maybe 1 to 5, 1 to 6, whatever it is. Probably hit an activity after that. I've got a list of things and people doing different things, and just have to figure out what I'm going to do. But I'm definitely going to bring my equipment and put some episodes together just to recap day 1, day 2, day 3. So you'll get one Thursday morning, Friday morning, and Saturday morning. And then I will be walking the show on Saturday, and I'll give you an update also too of what happens with Panini. I have an appointment with them at like 11 o'clock Saturday morning on my redemption. So that should be interesting in itself to see what happens there. So yeah, wish me luck. And if you're there, come and see me at my table. It's either 529 or 628. The tables are in the same booth, but one's on one row and one's on another. That's why the numbers are so far apart, but the tables are in the same booth, right by the front door. And I'll post Wednesday exactly which table I'm at. I'll probably, after I set up, I'm going to do just a little Instagram live of my setup and what it looks like before the doors open over there. So So, well, we know the upcoming shows, the National, and the other show in August, East Coast National, is August 26th, 27th, 28th. Looking forward to that as well. And we'll talk about that after National. So I want to thank everyone for tuning in. And if you like what you hear, please subscribe. And most importantly, tell a friend and spread the word. Until next time, be good to yourselves and everyone around you.